How long does it take for an avoidant ex to regret losing you? If you've ever dated someone who pulled away, shut down emotionally, or seemed indifferent after a breakup, this video or podcast is for you. Avoidant attachment styles make breakups feel confusing and painful because one day they're all in and the next day they're gone. So, do they ever regret it? And if so, how long does it take? Well, I'm going to discuss the psychology of avoidant attachment and what the research shows about whether and when they might actually miss you. Hi, this is Lucia with The Art of Love. I'm a dating and relationship expert specializing in helping you get your ex back or to get over your ex. And welcome back, my beautiful no contact army. I am still doing the promotion where if you leave a review, not a rating, for my app Silencio, and the link is underneath every single video and podcast, then I will send you a copy of my book, No Contact Secrets, which you can find out more about at nocontactsecrets.com. It's over 170 pages, so there's lots of reading to be done. And all you have to do is, as I said, leave that review and then send me a screenshot at theartoflove.net. And you can find the contact on that website. Okay? All right, so let's get started. So first, to clarify what avoidant attachment is, if you're not sure. So people with avoidant attachment, they value independence over emotional intimacy. They pull away when things get too serious. They suppress their feelings after a breakup. They're more likely to use distancing strategies post-breakup. They often report feeling relieved immediately after a split. They may seem cold or unbothered, even if they do care. And that's because they're wired to distance themselves from emotional pain. So their regret, if it comes, often shows up later than you would expect. So this explains why your avoidant ex might seem cold or unbothered. It's actually a coping mechanism, not necessarily how they truly feel. So when does regret hit? Well, studies on breakup adjustment show a clear pattern. So phase 1 is relief, and that's from 0 to 2 months. And a study in social, psychological, and personality science from 2015 found that avoidants reported higher happiness levels immediately post-breakup compared to anxious or secure individuals. They may seem indifferent or even happy, which can be confusing. But to them, intimacy feels like a trap. Sorry to tell you. And they're relieved that the relationship is over. They don't have to deal with any emotional intensity or conflict. They're living their best life. That's why chasing after an avoidant and expressing your love for them after a breakup is the worst thing you could do. That's not what they want to hear. Now, luckily for you, this is often short-lived. And you may have heard me say in another video the quote, dump her, laugh now, cry later. Dumpy, cry now, laugh later. Well, don't worry. The tables will soon turn. Although they're, quote, laughing now, not necessarily really laughing, but you know what I mean, and you're crying, eventually they're going to be crying. So then we move to phase 2, which is delayed emotional processing, and this could take 2 to 4 months. And this is when they tell themselves a story. They may think, oh, well, you were too emotional for them. You weren't right for each other. It wasn't going to work. They're essentially rewriting history. They want to change the story so they can avoid feeling regret over breaking up with you. And they did care, but they need to justify what they did. And research from the Attachment Project shows that avoidants suppress their emotions initially, but feelings resurface later as the emotional dust settles and they start to reflect, especially if they see you moving on or thriving. This can trigger doubt. This is why I have the 2-drink trick that you have to use, but not right away. And that's where you show 2 drinks at a club or a restaurant or a bar and make it look like you're on a date. So you can't have 2 girly drinks. It has to be a female drink and a male drink. Yes, there is such a thing. Figure out which one is which. No umbrellas for the male drink. So they need to pass this stage in order to feel regret. And they can only feel regret if you leave them alone. Ignore my cat. Contacting them is not going to make them feel regret. If anything, it'll send them back to the relief stage. The time apart from you is when they start to feel safe enough to remember the relationship as it was, not through the filter of their story. So then we have phase 3, which is months 4 to 6. This is where they are confused. And I talked about this in my video from last week titled Your Ex is More Confused Than You Think. And I will put the link in the upper right-hand corner on YouTube. And that's because they expected you to reach out, especially if you were anxious. And, you probably were if you were dating an avoidant. Those two seem to be attracted to each other. So for sure, they thought that you would reach out and chase them. But if you've been in no contact, if you've been a good little soldier, you haven't done that. And this forces them to confront their feelings and notice that they actually do miss you now, since you're no longer around and it doesn't look like you're going to be contacting them. And this is where doubt starts to set in. They're not fully regretting losing you yet, but they are confused and missing you. And the reality of their decision starts to hit them. They're realizing that they can't just run away from this anymore, and there's a strong possibility that they're losing you and won't be able to get you back. And then finally, the phase you've been waiting for, yes, phase 4, regret. This comes 6 months onwards to who knows how long. And this is when they fully start to feel regret. They finally start to see what they really lost when they broke up with you. They never thought you would move on and that they would completely lose you. And besides regret, they're also going to start to panic. And this is when they reach out of nowhere. One of my clients didn't hear from his ex until, I believe it was 7 months had gone by. And in that whole 7 months, he did not receive one little breadcrumb. But unfortunately for his ex, he had already moved on. There's a longitudinal study in personal relationships from 2017 that found that avoidants were more likely to reach out after long periods of no contact, especially if they saw their ex thriving. Avoidants often regret a breakup, but only after significant time and because of external triggers, like, as I said, seeing you move on. And also by this stage, nostalgia or loneliness is going to make them question their decision. Avoidants process loss on a delay. Their regret isn't absent, it's just slow to arrive. Especially if you're anxious, you want to get them back as soon as possible, but you have to have patience. So how can you tell if they regret it? Well, look for things like indirect contact, so liking your posts, random breadcrumb texts, watching your stories all of a sudden, asking mutual friends about you, mentioning memories or checking in. Hey, just checking in. Sure. Hey, how are you doing? Just want to see how you're doing. Hot and cold behavior. So reaching out and then disappearing. Hey, hope you're well. And then, they're off again. So keep in mind that it takes dismissive avoidance a lot longer to feel regret than it does for anxious avoidance. And something you absolutely must keep in mind is that you need to let them get to the stage where they regret the breakup if you want them back. Real regret is when they understand how they hurt you, understand why they did it, and they promise to work on being better. But remember, regret doesn't always mean they'll change, because avoidants often repeat their patterns unless they actively work on themselves. That's why I say that the prerequisite for coming back, for you allowing them to come back into your life, is they have to agree to work on their attachment style. Because if they don't, it's going to happen again. They're going to break up with you again, and it's going to be worse the second time. So don't put your life on hold. Avoidants operate on their own timeline, and it may not align with yours. So the best thing you can do is focus on yourself, as I always say, because whether they regret it or not, you do deserve someone who chooses you without hesitation. So stay in no contact. Do not reach out. I know it's difficult, but trust me, the pain of patience is nothing compared to the pain of regret. By breaking no contact, you will most likely regret it, and it's going to take a lot longer for them to get to the regret stage. Okay? So now I want to hear from you. Have you heard from your ex, and what did they say? And if you haven't, how long have you been in no contact? And if you would like my help to get your ex back, you can contact me at theartoflove.net/coaching, and we will send you the rates. They are not on the website, and the direct link to that is underneath every single video and podcast. If you found this video helpful, please like, subscribe, and share. If you're listening to this as a podcast, the best way to help the show is to download this episode. And finally, remember, love inspires, empowers, uplifts, and enlightens.